Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? I just got my hair's always all crazy. I just got out of an RNC meeting. We're not going to make the intro long on this one. I'm going to do the typical YouTuber stuff, and I know on shows like this I am going to get watchers that I normally don't. So if you want to have a political channel, mostly political, that is a little bit different, I do invite you to subscribe and check it out. I don't care if you're even hate watching. A watch is a watch. You can always follow me as well on Twitter, though I will warn you, it is very spicy content. I don't have Tourette syndrome. all of my spiciness is completely voluntary. And last but not least, I would appreciate a patron support at patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. Okay, let's get right to it, because again, I know I am going to have some new watchers, so some of what I'm going to say in this intro, you guys who are my regular watchers will already know this, but those of you who are not will not. Whoa, got my little material here and I almost dropped it. So just some brief intros for those of you who are just irritated Republicans who want to hear about removing Ronna McDaniels. So I want to give you my bona fides right off the bat. I know you look at me and you're probably going to have some snap judgments that I am some crazy progressive. I am not. I am crazy, but I'm a crazy libertarian. But I'm not just a crazy libertarian. I actually do have some credentials behind me, whether or not you would think so by the pink hair. I am actually the national secretary on the Libertarian National Committee, so I am familiar with politics on the national level, and particularly being an officer on a national governing board, which is going to become very relevant here. But even more importantly, I am a registered parliamentarian. I know I am not normally what you would think of when you're envisioning in your head what a parliamentarian looks like, but I actually am. Now, that's not the highest level within the National Association of Parliamentarians. That would be professional registered parliamentarian, whereas I'm a level lower at registered parliamentarian and only several years of experience. So fairly new, but no more than your average bear. Doesn't mean I can't be wrong, but I'm going to be giving you my opinion from this particular perspective. I'd be more than glad. I see there is actually a super pro in the audience and would love to hear his opinion as well, because I'm going to be showing some screenshots. I can't really put comments on the screen, but I am taking a look at them. So hopefully, if those of you who are new, who have just heard this intro, will decide it's at least worth a few minutes of your time to hear what I have to say. Now, right off the bat, again, I'm a libertarian. I don't really care what goes on in the Republican Party. So I'm coming at this very objectively. I have no horses in this fight, except perhaps irritation at the dumb comments on Twitter, but that's a daily occurrence for me. I live in a constant state of irritation at the dumb comments on Twitter. And what got me going is I keep seeing all of this commentary about Ronna McDaniels. Let me tell you right off the bat, I have no opinion on her performance. I have no opinion on whether she should or should not be chairwoman of the Republican National Committee. No opinion. Oh, there's a bit of background I also need to give you. And again, my current audience is like, how could you leave this out? When you start talking about removal of a national officer of a political party, that's kind of a subject that unwillingly has become near and dear to my heart. So let me give you a little bit of background again, new viewers. Last term on the Libertarian National Committee, I was allegedly removed as national secretary. I say allegedly because my removal was declared null and void at the last Libertarian National Convention. That means it didn't happen. It was void ab initio. But I've been through this and have learned a lot more about removal than I ever wanted to know. And my prejudice, because of personal experience, is against it. So, not caring a whit about the Republican Party or personally about Ronna McDaniel, my prejudice is, yeah, let her serve out her term. If you don't like her, make sure someone else gets elected. That is my prejudice. So, now back to the Twitter irritation. The first comment that really piqued my interest was from, and again, if you're a Republican, you're going to get irritated at some of the things I said, but was from a Trump cultist. And this Trump cultist was like, Trump should remove Ronna McDaniels. And I'm like, okay, I haven't read the RNC bylaws yet, but I don't think that's how it works. That doesn't sound to me like that's how it works. And then kept just seeing a bunch of more generic comments that Ronna McDaniels should be removed, but with nothing more specific on making it happen. Nothing more specific on targeting the actual process on which that could happen, which led me to believe, I know this is shocking, that there was just a bunch of people on Twitter who actually care about the Republican Party, which I don't, which have never even bothered to look into how you would make this happen. If I was so lathered up that I thought somebody should be removed in my party, the first thing I would do is look up the procedure on how that could possibly happen rather than just opening my pie hole on Twitter. But apparently that's not what people are doing, because I've yet to see one post that even remotely hints at the process at which that could happen. And then the rest of the posts are asking her to resign. Now, of course, people can resign. So we're ignoring all of that. Ask her to resign all you want. I'm dealing with the people who are like seriously saying she should be removed while being utterly ignorant as to whether that can even happen. I mean, short answer, yes, it can. But I didn't know that yet. And JJ will now know why I was asking him certain questions recently, because I was investigating this. And H. Reardon asked me a question. I'm going to put this on screen. Anyone, you've been listening to my show enough that I don't know why you don't know the answer to this, but we'll put this up here. If you don't care about the RP, why are you talking about this? Because I care about parliamentary procedure, and I care about dumbass comments on Twitter, and I care about ignorance. It doesn't matter the topic. We could be talking about the Socialist Workers' Party for all I care. I'm a parliamentarian. I care about parliamentary procedure. I don't even understand why I should have to explain that, but I just did. I think you need to learn about me a little bit more, H. Root, and I don't think very many people who know me would have to guess very many times as to why I'm taking an interest in this topic. So what did I spend today doing? This was my idea of party time. Oh, it's funny because we're talking about political parties, but anyway, I spent my afternoon reading the rules of the Republican Party, which is what they call their bylaws. And it says elsewhere that their bylaws are called rules. But anyway, let me give my disclaimers. I searched high and low to see if they have a policy manual or any standing rules or special rules of order that would supplement this, and I couldn't find any. If those exist, and it would surprise me if they did not, then obviously some things I say here today could change. What I'm going to say here today is based on these and my experience which again isn't as great as other people's experience. And I'm totally willing to be corrected, but I wish some of the people on Twitter would have at least looked into it. Even if they were wrong, like at least know that there are rules that govern this sort of thing. Hashtag remove Ronna McDaniel is not going to remove Ronna McDaniel, I hate to tell you. And again, just let her serve out her term, but whatever. Most of the complaints I've seen against her, here's where I am going to be ignorant about Republican Party working that I know is way different than LP being Libertarian Party. Half of the things that they're blaming her for, I don't think are her fault. Now, of course, the buck stops with the leader. But you have a whole Republican committee, and I think you're targeting a lot of your ire toward her when perhaps it should be diffused out a little bit. But anyway, don't care. Just my gut feeling when I'm reading this, because I'm having like parallel resonance with Libertarian Party controversies. And I have a lot of sympathy for her just because I have a lot of sympathy for people in the public eye that get this targeted ire for things that perhaps they had nothing to do with. So your candidate's lost. Have you ever considered you have sucky candidates and it might not be her fault? Now, I don't know. Maybe it's entirely her fault. But have you considered maybe you just suck? Just saying. So, the first thing I wanted to look at, well, there's several things, but I wanted to understand the structure of the RNC, which I knew was different than the LNC. And very generally speaking, this is going to be overly broad. They almost have completely a regional system. It's not, doesn't walk on all fours. But just from my brief perusal, there isn't really at-larges. Maybe there is, and it just wasn't important. But it seems to me most of the RNC is like multiple members that are elected by state, and then there are all these multiple like vice chairs by region. So it's really, really different than the LNC. But one thing I found very woke about them, maybe there's some law I don't know about, but the representatives, the national committee people from each state, you get 2. It has to be of the opposite sex. So from Colorado, for instance, I knew the Republican National Committee man from Colorado. He's an attorney here. He's actually a wonderful person. Recently lost his wife. I'm very, very sad. I didn't know that the counterpart had to be a woman. Very woke of you, Republican Party. And another thing I just saw today is you have an RNC chair, which is Ronna, but you also have a co-chair. And the co-chair, if your chair is a woman, has to be a man. So I saw today floating on Twitter, replace Ronna with this dude who isn't presently the co-chair. That's not how it works. If her seat is vacant, I'll have to look again if the co-chair moves permanently into the chair. I think it's just temporarily, but the vacancy has to be filled by a woman. So all you ignorant people floating this male name that is not presently the co-chair, unless you're talking about removing him and coming up with an entirely different male-female set, you are talking out your booty holes. Read your rules. I'm not even a member of your party, and I read your rules. I want this hour back. They're actually not that long. I know this looks long, but they're like, let me show you. It's like the way it prints is really weird too. This is the PDF from the website. Holy shit, people, learn how to format properly. I know this is for some little booklet, but for printing out on the website, it should go all the way across the page so I didn't have to print 43 pages. How big is your budget that you couldn't have properly formatted bylaws? At least the Libertarian Party has properly formatted bylaws, but anyway. So we're going to look at some specific bylaws, shall we? So let me pull up the first one. And thank you, Casey. Okay, first one is Rule 5. So it'd be Bylaw 5. And they don't do them by Roman numerals either, like Roberts recommends. Anyway, I need to move this other screen off to the side here. So, unlike the LNC, the officers are not elected at convention. They're elected mostly, not entirely, from among their own number. So the assembly that elects the chair is the RNC. It's not the delegates at the Republican convention. So the officers of the Republican National Committee shall consist of. Is it just me? I hate the phrase shall consist of. I like comprise. But anyway, that's just me. A chairman and a co-chairman of the opposite sex, God, that is so freaking woke, who shall be elected by the members of the RNC. So they're not elected at convention. They're elected by the RNC. Now, this is interesting. This is where I said not necessarily amongst their number. The treasurer and the secretary have to be RNC members. But the chair and the co-chair do not have to be RNC members. Now, I don't know whether Ronna or her co-chair are also RNC members in their own rights. So, except as otherwise ordered by a majority of the members of the RNC present and voting on the matter, like present and voting is unnecessary. That's what majority means. The chairman and co-chairman shall be full-time paid employees. Anyway, okay. But that last sentence is what is important. The chairman or co-chairman may be removed. God, this is giving me PTSD. Oh, God. Oh, I'm getting a cold sweat. September 4th and 5th, 2021, I'm getting a cold sweat. The chairman or co-chairman may be removed from office only, so this is the only way they can be removed. Trump can't just do it, you delusional twits. The chairman or co-chairman may be removed from office only by a 2/3 vote of the members of the Republican National Committee. It doesn't say a 2/3 of the entire Republican National Committee. So that's a bit different than the LNC, in which a removal is the entire, so that an abstention effectively counts as a no, which is different because there are other votes in these rules that do require the entire RNC. So that's interesting. So that's how she gets removed. And notice it doesn't say by cause, without cause, anything like that. So I'd be really interested in what JJ has to say about that, because he might disagree with me on this next point. And again, I'm willing to be corrected. Hold on, I just lost my spot. There's a couple other rules I want to look at here. So rule later on, I forgot what subpart. This is part of Rule 5, but it's multiple subparts down. B, this says when they're elected, which has within it their term of office, though there isn't a sentence that specifically has the phrase term of office that I was looking for. But it says the chairman, co-chairman, and all other officers shall be elected in January of each odd-numbered year. So that becomes important. Is this going to be interpreted as and until their successors are elected, or until their successors are elected? Because to me, that makes a difference as to whether she can be removed with or without cause, and whether she would be afforded a trial. Now, when I was dealing with Libertarian Party bylaws, now obviously I think the way my term of office was described, I absolutely was owed a trial. But I was very honest that was secondary to me, that little fussiness in wording. Libertarians of all people should give everyone due process. I did not give a fuck what the terms of office were described as in the bylaws. Luckily for me, they supported my position, but I would have still had that position even if the bylaws didn't, because libertarians should always favor due process when you're overriding the will of the delegates. This is a bit different because A, it's the Republicans and they don't care about justice, and it isn't the will of the delegates. The officers of the RNC are not elected by the delegates. They're elected by the RNC. So I don't have nearly as much problem with the RNC removing an officer because it is the body that elected them. One of the things that was so offensive to so many members of the Libertarian Party and to myself about that corrupt LNC's removal attempt of me is they weren't the people that elected me. The people that they removed me, allegedly, for keeping the promise I made to the delegates that elected me. They didn't like that I was cantankerous and nosy and just all the role that I played. But those were my campaign promises. So they basically tried to remove me for keeping my campaign promises. The people who, in a libertarian morality, had the right to remove me were the same people who elected me. So on the Republican National Committee, their structure is different. These are the people that elected the officer. So I don't have nearly any kind of moral conundrum there. Plus, I don't think the Republicans care about justice to begin with. So we'll have to look at this. So the chairman, co-chairman, and all other officers shall be elected in January of each odd-numbered year. Blah, blah, blah. It says all officers shall be nominated from the floor. So they get nominated and have to have a certain support, but they get elected by the RNC. It's a really weird arrangement. But anyway, it's their arrangement. They can do what they want. Okay, next rule. When does the RNC meet that they can potentially do this? So it says they meet at least 2 times a year, but there are provisions for special meetings. So meetings can be called more often than 2 times a year. I didn't bother to look at whether they could do email votes. I didn't look at electronic voting and stuff like that because I didn't want to get that granular. I just wanted to make sure that they were able to meet more than like these wide time periods apart. So people, those of you who want Ronna removed, you got to talk to the RNC representatives, the man and the woman from your state, and the various vice chair people from your regions. And they would have to bring a removal motion. You just calling for it on Twitter without like some kind of action plan doesn't do a damn thing. Now, why am I concerned about how their terms of office are described? So their parliamentary authority is the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order. It is mentioned multiple times in the Republican Party bylaws. I should have excerpted out that it's rule number 7, which says Rules of Order. The current authorized edition of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, shall govern. Okay. So there we go. So I'm going to go to at least one pertinent reference in Roberts. And sorry, I couldn't get my Kindle version to work. My laptop, I have two, I had 2 laptops, which I need to. And one of them already went kaput. And then the other one sometimes doesn't turn on. And I can't have that because I have a 4-hour commute total each day, and I do my LNC work on the train. So I did have to get a MacBook Air. So please, 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 Anybody, all super chats matter, all super thanks matter. It goes to my reimbursing myself for a computer fund so I can do my RNC work. But I did get a MacBook Air, and what I'm getting to on that is I can't get my Kindle version of Robert's Rules of Order to load up. So I had to take a photograph of the actual page. So here we go. It is 6216, a provision which unfortunately I am all too familiar with. So removal from office, except as the bylaws, or the rules in this case, which are the bylaws, may provide otherwise. Any regular elected officer of a permanent society can be removed from office by the society's assembly as follows. And I agree with you, JJ, she does require a trial. I'm glad we're in agreement here. So this first provision says when they don't require a trial. And it says when the terms of office says they serve for a certain period of time, X years, whatever, or until their successors are elected. I'm going to go on a rabbit trail here. Please, LP people, or even anybody else, but I care most about LP people. Get a parliamentarian, please, for the love of God. I think JJ's even saying amen here. When you're amending your bylaws or reviewing them, the difference of one word can make the difference as to whether an officer you like that you elected gets a trial or not. You wouldn't have somebody who doesn't know shit about brain surgery operate on your head. Get somebody who's a professional to help you with the existential governing documents of your organization. Okay, I'm done. But man, I hope you feel my pain. So anyway, or until their successors are elected, the officer in question can be removed by office by adoption of a motion to do so. The vote required, blah, blah, blah. But I have to be honest here. Their bylaw is very similar to the RNC bylaw, in which some parliamentarians think that bylaw removes it from the trial provision. Our delegates at convention disagreed. I still disagreed. I think any removal of Ronna McDaniels would fall under this provision of Roberts, which is a continuation of what we were just reading, which was, I think, 62. Hold on, what was it? 6216, correct. Okay, so this is the second bullet point in 6216. If, however, the bylaws provide that officers shall serve only a fixed term, which I think that is what the RNC bylaws say, an officer can be removed from office only for cause. So you have to have cause. Now, Roberts, unfortunately, does not define cause. I do think there's plenty of case law that can give you guidance on what cause is. And if you look at some other parliamentary authorities, such as the American Institute of Parliamentarian Standard Code, which does have really, well, I don't want to say really good because I'm sure I can find a hole in it, but they at least have a definition or definitions of cause that Roberts doesn't. And funny enough, under the AIPSC code, I would not have been able to be removed because they basically removed me for being a mouthy bitch. That, it doesn't exactly say that on AAP. Thou shalt not remove your pink-haired secretary for being a mouthy bitch. It says an officer can be removed from office only for cause, that is neglect of duty in office. Now, I know some people are arguing that's what Ronna is guilty of, and that's fine, make the case. Or misconduct, and I've seen allegations today of misconduct, of wasting money of some kind of, we don't have any money in the LPs, so I can't relate here, but apparently the allegation is she's blowing RNC money on manicures and pedicures and makeup and clothes. Like, we don't know that in the LP, so can't relate. But so I suppose that could be misconduct in accordance with the procedures described in 63, which talk about trial and the right to due process. So, without knowing if there's any special rules of order or any other things, my assessment, which I am open to being corrected with further information, as JJ said. Yeah, that's what he's. Let me put this on the screen because I don't have comments on the screen. He said they could, however, draft a special rule to remove her without a trial. Agreed. That, well, maybe agreed. I'm not quite so sure about that, but I agree that's a factor. I was looking for special rules of order and couldn't find any. I did find a resolution they made, though, to oppose RCV. Boo, hiss. Boo, boo, hiss, hiss. But anyway, so with the information I have at hand, so Mama does do her research, and I am at least somewhat qualified in this area. Your tweets are doing nothing. You need to talk to your RNC members and have them bring a motion, and she would be owed a trial for cause. So, you want to remove Ronna McDaniels, that's the way you need to do it. Let me just give you some advice from the trenches. It's not worth it. Deal with it. Let's just leave it at that. Normally, and people have ignored my advice plenty of times when it comes to just the political realities. I get it that sometimes maybe it is absolutely necessary. There might be a time in my future where I vote to remove somebody, and if I ever do, you know that it's really serious. I have voted to do it in the past, and I regret that vote with everything I know now. You live and learn. I change my mind on many other things today. If it came before me today, well, it's hard to say I definitely would not have voted yes. I would have abstained because my region wanted me to vote yes. I wouldn't have gone directly against my region and voted no, but I probably would have abstained on that vote to remove Arvin Vohra. That is a vote I regret. I did not know then what I know now. And I try to tell people, when this is coming before you, maybe it is the right thing for your organization. I'm not going to tell you that. But count the cost and make sure you have a good case. Plenty of state parties have done it. Okay. That is completely up to you. I know some such cases are coming up in Michigan, and those are super, super bad actors. I'm not going to presume to tell them what to do. That is Michigan's business. But it is a very, very serious thing that can cause some psychic wounds in your organization. Okay, so Brian asks, let's say one is a Republican. What could, I'm assuming PC means precinct committeeman. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, do on the ground level. I have to tell you, and I always say this, I don't know in the LP, at least in Colorado, where I'm at in Colorado, by the way. We don't have Libertarian precinct committeemen. Some states do, like Arizona does. I think Washington does. It's just the way our minor party law is. But what I would guess you would need to do, Brian, is talk to your state chair. From what I understand from your bylaws, and go to the RNC site. It's actually very user-friendly. Download these rules. They're 43 pages long, but you don't need to read all 43 pages. I think about halfway through, or maybe even a third of the way through, it starts talking about convention rules. You don't need to read those. You just need to read the ones that are about the organization of the RNC. So, hold on. I'll let you know what rule you need to read up through. It's not very many. Probably only Rule 9. Because Rule 10 is committees of the RNC. Rule 7, Rule 8, Rule 9. I think you only need to read through Rule 9. And the rest don't really apply to this. Though it would always behoove you, if you're in the Republican Party, to be familiar with your national bylaws. And another one of my bona fides, just by the way, I am the national chair of the Libertarian Party Bylaws and Rules Committee. I've was the last chair of the Colorado State Party Bylaws and Rules Committee. I know I don't look the part, but trust me, I know what I'm talking about. Your state chair is a member of the RNC. From what I understand, each state's state chair is a member, along with a male and a female committeeman, and then there's an additional person who's a vice chair based upon region, and the regions are here. So that's who you need to talk to, and they would need a 2/3 vote. Now let me explain something to those who aren't all that into like the parliamentary stuff. It's not a 2/3 vote of the entire RNC, and the entire RNC's got to be something like, so if you got 3 from each state, I mean, it's over 150 members. A 2/3 vote is those present and voting. Abstentions don't count. Somebody's not going to bring such a serious motion unless they think they had 2/3. But that 2/3, again, isn't 2/3 of the 170 or whatever. It's 2/3 of those present and voting. Okay, well, this was a little bit different for me. I don't normally talk about other parties. Sometimes I do. I did a lot on the People's Party when they were first starting, but I found this an interesting topic. I was getting very frustrated on Twitter from people just, listen, if you want to do something, take action. And I say that as a person who takes action. So I've given you some starting places, and I hope that helps. So I hope you guys have an awesome evening and an awesome week. Not sure if I'm going to be doing very many shows next week. Tomorrow is the meeting of the Libertarian Party of Colorado State Party that I'll be going to. Tuesday, Brian, you're going to see I'm really involved. Tuesday, I'm on the National Ballot Access Committee. On Wednesday, I'm on the National Convention Oversight Committee, and we have a meeting. On Thursday, we have a meeting of the National Bylaws and Rules Committee. So yes, I'm a busy girl, and I just got out of a Libertarian National Committee meeting, and it was probably the most uneventful quickest meeting we ever had. I think JJ would agree. You had heard it. We were even only in executive session for what, like 25 minutes? Anyway, so I hope you have a good night, but maybe we'll do a history show tomorrow because those are easy for me. Don't need to do much preparation for that. Anyways, until we talk again, bye-bye.
Given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business.